I definitely looked at rankings, and it was, for me, extremely important. One of the things I knew about my own life is that I have an international life, and I wanted to make sure that I did a program that if I'm living in Amsterdam or in London or anywhere else in the world, that I did a program that people took seriously. And so it's one of the reasons that I chose Cambridge. It's a brand that's international. But I also thought it was very important, if you're within that certain world, to also have a MBA program that people also recognize. So for me, looking at a school, I did take the rankings very seriously. Loads of different rankings for exactly that, to make sure that, I wanted to go to a top 20 school, and I wanted to make sure that that school that I chose was, in the top 20 on different rankings. I personally followed the FT and the Economist rankings for a couple of years while I was looking for schools, and then I would just look around at others. Again, going back to the fact that it was more European centered and a more international flavor, so a lot of rankings were sort of slanted toward some rankings were sort of slanted towards the US, for example, and I found that less relevant for my search. I sort of settled on those two, and then triangulated, with the other rankings. I think it's very personal. I think everyone's story is slightly different, and it depends really what you want to do afterwards, where you want to go. If where you want to set up shop. If you want to live in city X, maybe you want to go somewhere there or in the neighborhood, so you start making connections and network, even though 500 kilometers away there's maybe a slightly better school, but that doesn't make sense for your personal story. So I think it's really important when you're looking at rankings to stay honest to your own path. And I think when you're looking at rankings, like I said, especially the sort of weighted side towards salary, if you're thinking of going to Silicon Valley, it might match perfectly with what you want. But if you would like to maybe do an MBA to run your family business, or to work in the arts, it may be a completely different set of criteria that you need. So I think the rankings are very helpful, especially when there are so many schools out there, and you're trying to figure out what it is and where it is that you can actually create your and navigate your path. But I really think keep going back to your story, your dreams, your needs, actually, what you're looking for in your life. And I think that, combined with some of the information you can get from the rankings, you'll be much better served than chasing rankings alone.
The main one I looked at was the Financial Times ranking. I filtered that by universities in Europe and in business, in management, MBA, and also globally. I also look at Bloomberg, I remember, another smaller rankings, but the main ones were Financial Times and Bloomberg. It's another reference. It gives you an idea of how known and reputable a university is, how modern it is, how it is adapting to challenges in the market, how companies, organizations, governments, or how organizations, companies are perceiving the quality of the graduates that finished or study in the university. In the end, that's, I believe, one of the most precise measures of value, how companies, organizations perceive the quality of the students that graduate from universities. And that's why what I believe the rankings showcase. I looked at first the overall ranking, then I started filtering it by region. I wanted to study in Europe, so I looked for Europe. But then you can still find many options. Other variables important for me were the ecosystem, the average salary after graduation, the average salary increase at the students, and also the value for money, kind of a return on investment calculated by the ranking, and all combined it gave me a reference to start to continue reaching out, engaging the universities to explore further.
I think ranking is the most important, one of the most important criteria when I selecting the school, because I know if a school is ranking high, that means the professional professor there will be much more, it's like the academic source will be stronger, and you have greater community, and also it will have positive impact for your future career development. So naturally, everyone will think about ranking when you're choosing the program. And while choosing the EDHEC, I kind of go through all the ranking like Financial Times, QOS, and then EDHEC is always like top 5. For me, if you're top 5, you're at the first layer, at the first tier, then it's totally fine for me. Of course, there is the ranking is always changing. Like 1 year, probably you're top 3, sometimes you're top 5, but it shows that you have high standard, this kind of education standard among a certain period of time. So that's really promising. And why criteria to select is really the school you're coming from. If you're from like a top university, of course, it doesn't really mean you will be much better than other people, but at the same time, it will really make it easy for HR to select, because they will have less risk to move on with your application. So that's very natural and makes a lot of sense. So that's kind of influences kind of ranking criteria for Chinese applicants, because really want to have a top ranking school in our resume. At the same time, it's very reassuring and it's low risk if we decide to take this kind of education, because it's a huge commitment. Because if I'm in China and I tell them I'm from EDHEC Business School, they may feel like, so tell me more about this, because they may not have this specific knowledge in this country or in business school. They may from different background. So that's why in my resume, I always highlight this the top 5 French business school and the ranking of the major. So for HR, it makes them easy to really evaluate your resume. And of course, it's a probably proud thing to say, so why not just put it in your resume? So I think this is something important, not only for you as an applicant, but also important for the employer. So it makes their work much easier.